The day my father laughed and said, "Some kids make you proud. Others just take up space." The room went silent, but something inside me died screaming. My mother didn't stop him, she smiled. Like she agreed I was standing right there alive, breathing, already erased. That night, I packed nothing but my shame and walked out of the house that had never felt like home. They didn't chase me. They didn't call. They didn't even lock the door behind me. To them I was finally gone. I used to believe silence meant weakness. Turns out, silence is where monsters are born. Growing up, I was the extra chair at the table. The child they introduced last. "This is your brother, and yes, this one too." My grades were never enough. My dreams were a joke. Every mistake became a family story told at dinners, with laughter. "Why can't you be like your cousin? Why are you so slow? Do you even try?" The worst part wasn't the words, it was how comfortable they were saying them. So when I vanished, they felt relieved. They told people I was lost. Then confused. Then a failure. They never said my name again. The first year was hell. I slept on bus station benches, listening to announcements that felt like countdowns to nothing. I washed dishes until my hands cracked open. I ate once a day, sometimes not at all. At night I replayed my father's voice in my head. "You just take up space." So I decided one day I would take everything. But not loudly, not fast, slow, silent, precise. I learned to watch people instead of trusting them. I learned how power actually works, who pulls strings, who lies well, who panics when the lights turn on. I read books no one reads. I listened more than I spoke. I worked jobs where no one remembered my face, and that was perfect. Because ghosts don't get noticed until it's too late. 5 years passed, then 10. My parents aged. Their pride grew louder. They loved telling people about my siblings, their achievements, their weddings, their promotions. When my name came up, my mother would sigh dramatically. "Oh, we don't talk about that one." And everyone nodded. What they didn't know was that I had been sitting in boardrooms where decisions were made that could erase entire companies with a signature. That I owned things they walked past every day without looking up. That I had changed my name, but not my memory. I didn't want revenge fueled by rage. I wanted revenge fueled by timing. The invitation arrived on thick white paper. A family celebration, an anniversary, big speeches, big guests. My father would be there, still loud, still proud. My mother, still smiling like she'd never failed anyone. They never sent me an invite, they didn't need to. Because I was already on the guest list. Just not as their child. The night of the event, the hall shimmered with money and fake warmth. My parents stood at the center, soaking in applause like oxygen. My father raised his glass. "Some kids make you proud," he said, chuckling, "and others, well, you can't win them all." Laughter rolled through the room. That's when the doors opened. And I walked in. Not as the child they broke. Not as the ghost they buried. But as the one person in that room who knew every secret they had tried to forget. Their smiles froze. My mother's glass slipped from her fingers, and my father finally recognized the space he had tried to erase. The room didn't just go quiet, it held its breath. My father stared at me like he was looking at a ghost that had learned how to walk. His mouth opened, then closed again, as if his pride was choking him from the inside. My mother's hands trembled so hard, she had to grip the edge of the table to stay standing. I walked forward slowly. Every step landed like a verdict. People turned, confused, whispering. They didn't know who I was yet, but they felt the shift. Power always announces itself without words. "Who is that?" someone murmured. I stopped a few feet from my parents, close enough that they could see it now, the calm. The absence of need. I smiled, not warmly, not cruelly. Just finally free. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady, sharp enough to cut glass. "Beautiful event." My father cleared his throat. Do we know you?" There it was, the lie he told himself for years. My eyes didn't leave his face. "You should," I said softly. "You raised me." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. My mother's lips parted. "That's not funny," she whispered. "This isn't the place." I leaned in slightly, just enough for her to hear. You taught me everything about places, I said. Where I belonged. Where I didn't. Her face went pale. The host rushed over, flustered. Sir, may I ask who you are? This is a private. I'm tonight's primary investor, I said, handing him a card without looking. And the reason this building is still standing. He read the name. His eyes widened. Of course, my apologies, please, anything you need. He backed away like I was holding something explosive. My father watched this exchange, his confidence bleeding out in real time. What does that mean? He demanded. Investor in what? I turned to face the room now, letting my voice carry. In the last 8 months, I said, I acquired a controlling stake in 3 logistics firms, 2 real estate holdings, and 1 media company. A pause. Tonight, I continued, those companies finalized a merger. People started pulling out their phones. My father's face tightened. You're lying. I looked back at him. I learned from the best. A few people laughed nervously. But then the screens behind us flickered to life. A logo appeared. My logo. Gas, the host whispered, That's him. No, that's impossible. He was nothing. He disappeared? Yes, I said. I did. I stepped closer to them, lowering my voice again. And you never asked where? My father straightened, trying to reclaim the room. Listen, he said loudly, forcing a smile. Family jokes aside. This is clearly a misunderstanding. I tilted my head. You called me a joke. A flash of anger crossed his face. I said, You said, I interrupted calmly, that I took up space. The words landed heavy. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned in. I remember exactly where I was standing. I went on. You were holding a glass like that one. I gestured to his trembling hand. You laughed. And everyone else followed. Silence. I took your advice, I said. I stopped taking up space. I raised a hand. The screens changed again. Documents. Legal notices. My mother gasped. What is this? Just paperwork, I said. You always said I needed something practical. My father squinted. Those addresses. Yes, I said. Your properties. Mortgaged, leveraged, quietly acquired. His face drained of color. You can't do this, he hissed. That's our future. I looked him straight in the eye. You taught me not to care about that. My mother stepped forward suddenly, grabbing my arm. Please, she whispered, her nails digging in. We're family. I gently removed her hand. You never used that word when it mattered, I said. Don't start now. Her eyes filled with tears. We were hard on you, yes, but parents make mistakes. I leaned close enough that only she could hear. Mistakes end with apologies, I said. You ended with silence. She broke down. Behind us, the guests were buzzing now. Whispers flying. Someone said my name. Someone recognized it. The weight of the room shifted completely. My father slammed his glass down. You think money makes you powerful, he snapped. You think this fixes anything. I smiled again. Wider this time. No, I said. It makes me patient? I nodded toward the stage. The host swallowed and spoke into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, a brief announcement. The screen changed one last time. A press release. My father's company, his pride associate under investigation. Fraud. Tax evasion. Misappropriation of funds. All airtight. All timed. My father staggered back like he'd been punched. You did this, he whispered. I shrugged. You taught me how to plan ahead. My mother sobbed openly now. Why? She cried. Why are you doing this to us? I looked at her, really looked. Because you already did it to me? I said quietly. I'm just letting the world see it. Security moved in, unsure who to protect. The host avoided my eyes. My father's voice cracked. Son, I raised a finger. No, I said. You don't get to use that word now. I stepped back, surveying the room one last time. The same room where I'd once been laughed at. Reduced, erased. Now every eye followed me. I walked toward the exit, unhurried. Behind me, I heard my father call my name. For the first time in years, I didn't turn around. Outside, the night air was cold and clean. I paused under the lights, breathing deeply, feeling something loosen in my chest. This wasn't the end. This was just the moment they realized, the space they tried to erase. Had learned how to collapse worlds. And I was only getting started. The doors closed behind me, but the night didn't let me go. Flashbulbs exploded as soon as I stepped onto the marble steps. Reporters too fast, too hungry, had already caught the scent of blood. Someone shouted my name. Someone else asked about the investigation. I said nothing. Silence had carried me this far. I wasn't about to betray it now. Inside, the celebration was rotting in real time. I didn't need to see it to know. I could feel my father's world cracking, the way you feel thunder before it breaks. I could imagine him pacing, shouting, trying to force the air to listen to him again. I could imagine my mother collapsing into a chair, clutching her chest, whispering prayers she never taught me. A car pulled up. Quiet. Waiting. I slid into the back seat and watched the building recede, a glowing box full of endings that had only just begun. By morning, the story was everywhere. Local business leader under federal scrutiny. Family celebration turns into financial nightmare. Secret investor exposed. My name trended for 6 hours before it disappeared again, buried under louder scandals, sheenier lies. That was fine. I didn't want fame. Fame was noisy. Fame made people sloppy, power like the dark. My phone buzzed once. Then again. Then nonstop. Unknown numbers, old relatives. People who'd forgotten me so thoroughly they didn't even recognize their own guilt. I turned the phone off. There would be time for them later. 2 weeks passed. The investigation widened. Partners flipped. Accounts froze. My father's voice, once so sure, so booming, was reduced to a thin, trembling sound on leaked recordings. I didn't know. That wasn't my signature. You're making a mistake. No one listened. The house I grew up in went up for sale. Quietly. Desperately. The price dropped every 3 days. I bought it through a holding company. Didn't even blink. 2. I walked through the front door alone. The place smelled the same. Polish and old air, but the walls felt smaller now. Like they'd been built to contain something fragile, not strong. I stood in the living room where I'd been mocked. Where laughter had bounced off ceilings that never defended me. I remembered being 14, holding a report card with shaking hands. This is it. My father had said. You expect praise for this. I walked upstairs into my old room. They'd turned it into storage. Boxes stacked where my bed used to be. Dust where my posters had been. I ran a finger along the wall and felt the grooves where I'd counted days, scratched tiny lines for survival. I didn't feel angry. I felt finished. The call came that evening. I recognized my mother's number immediately. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Hello, I said. Her voice broke instantly. Please, she sobbed. Please come. Your father, he's not well. He keeps asking for you. I closed my eyes. I didn't know I mattered that much. I said. Don't do this, she pleaded. You did nothing. I cut in softly. That's the point. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Where? I asked finally. The hospital room was too white. Too clean for what was happening inside it. My father lay propped up by pillows, smaller than I remembered. Tubes ran from his arms like accusations. When he saw me, his eyes widened, not with anger this time, but fear. Real fear. You came, he whispered. I stood at the foot of the bed. Didn't touch him. You asked, I said. My mother hovered near the window. Her face hollowed out by regret she didn't know how to wear. My father swallowed hard. I never know, I said. You never meant to care? He flinched. I was wrong about you, he said weakly. You're impressive. There it was. The compliment I'd waited my whole childhood to hear. It landed like ash. I didn't come for that, I said. Then why? He asked. Desperation clawing into his voice. I met his eyes. To tell you something. He nodded eagerly like a child. I forgave you, I said. My mother gasped. My father exhaled. Relief flooding his face. But forgiveness, I continued, doesn't mean restoration. His brow furrowed. I don't want your approval, I said. I don't want your love. I don't even want your apology. The relief drained away. I just wanted you to know. I finished calmly, that I survived you. Something shattered behind his eyes. I turned to leave. Outside the room, my mother caught up to me, grabbing my sleeve. Is that it? She asked. After everything, you just walk away? Gently removed it. Yes, I said. That's it. She searched my face, desperate. Do you hate us? I thought about it. No, I said honestly. Her shoulders collapsed. Months later, my father's company was gone. Liquidated. Dissolved. A case study in quiet collapse. My siblings tried to reach me once. Then never again. They'd inherited his pride, but not his resilience. Without the structure he built, they floated, lost, angry, blaming ghosts. I didn't interfere. Some lessons need to finish themselves. One night, alone in my office, city lights stretching like veins beneath the windows, I poured a drink and sat in silence. I thought about the boy I used to be. The one who believed words defined him. The one who thought leaving meant losing. I raised the glass, not in celebration, not in bitterness. Just acknowledgement. They said I took up space. Now entire rooms rearranged themselves when I entered. And the quiet. The quiet finally listened to me. The quiet didn't last forever. It never does when people realize the person they crushed didn't disappear. He evolved. 6 months after the hospital, my mother sent a letter. Not a call, not a message. A handwritten letter, like ink could carry what her voice no longer could. Your father passed peacefully, it said. He asked for you again at the end. I didn't know what to tell him. I folded the letter once. Then twice. Then placed it in a drawer I rarely opened, the one reserved for things that no longer controlled me. I didn't attend the funeral. I didn't need closure from a room full of people who'd applauded my absence. The city kept moving. So did I expanded quietly. Acquired quietly. Corrected mistakes other people didn't even know they'd made yet. Governments returned my calls. Executives waited outside my office instead of the other way around. Power changes posture, it straightens your spine without asking. Still some nights, the past knocked. Not loudly, just enough to remind me where the fire came from. It happened at a charity gala. Irony has a sense of humor. The kind of event my parents used to love, champagne. Speeches about giving back. Applause that never quite reached the eyes. I wasn't on the guest list. I was the reason the building had electricity. As I crossed the room, conversations bent toward me. Heads turned, smiles recalibrated themselves, then I saw her. My mother. She stood near the back, smaller than I remembered. Dressed in black though the funeral had been months ago. Grief clung to her like a second skin. Our eyes met. For a moment, the room disappeared. She walked toward me slowly, like she was afraid I might vanish again. You look well, she said. So do you, I replied, because cruelty would have been lazy. She nodded, searching my face. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't sure I'd care, I said honestly. She flinched, but didn't retreat. I sold the house, she said quietly. I know. Her eyes widened. Yes. Why? I considered her question carefully. Because it was the last place you ever saw me as small. She looked down. I wish we had done better, she whispered. I met her gaze. I wish you had wanted to. The words hung between us, not sharp, just true. She reached into her purse and handed me something, a photo. Me, maybe 8 years old, smiling, holding a trophy I barely remembered winning. You kept this? I asked. I kept everything, she said. I just didn't know how to love it correctly. I gave the photo back. Keep it, I said. Memories aren't punishments. They're receipts. Her eyes filled, but she nodded. That was the last time I saw her. Years passed. The world learned my name, but never my story. They speculated, they mythologized. They turned silence into legend. Let them. I didn't need to be understood. I needed to be undeniable. One evening, my assistant brought me a file. She said, but he insists. Who? I asked without looking up. She hesitated. Your brother? I paused. Send him in. He walked into my office like someone entering a courtroom. Older. Thinner, the arrogance gone, replaced by something brittle. He didn't sit until I gestured. I didn't think you'd see me, he said. I didn't think you'd come, I replied. He exhaled sharply. I need help. Of course he did. With what? I asked. Everything, he said. Nothing works anymore. Doors close. People don't return calls. I studied him for a long moment. Do you remember? I asked calmly. The day Father said I took up space. He nodded. I laughed. Yes, I said. You did. He swallowed. I was young. So was I. Silence. I'm not asking for pity, he said quickly. Just a chance. I stood and walked to the window, the city glowing beneath us. I'll give you something better, I said. Clarity. I turned back to him. You were never my enemy, I said. You were my witness. And you chose applause over courage. His shoulders sagged. I can't undo that, he whispered. No, I agreed. But you can live with it. I pressed a button on my desk. My assistant appeared instantly. Give him the contact information for the foundation, I said. Entry-level position, no references, no shortcuts. My brother looked up, stunned. You're helping me, he asked. I shook my head. I'm giving you space. He didn't understand until later. They never do. That night, alone again, I poured another drink and sat with the city humming below. Revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream or gloat. It rearranges the world until the people who broke you no longer recognize their place in it. I didn't destroy my parents. I outlived their version of me, and that was far more permanent. The foundation was my last quiet weapon. Publicly, it was praised, awards, speeches, carefully chosen photographs. Privately, it was a mirror. It stripped people down to effort, discipline, humility. No last names, no legacies, no shortcuts. My brother lasted 3 months, not because he was lazy, but because he'd never learned how to be ears invisible and useful at the same time. He resigned without telling me. I found out from a weekly report. Just another line item. I felt nothing, and that's how I knew I'd finally won. Time kept folding in on itself. Years stacked. Deals closed. Empires rearranged quietly. Like furniture moved in the dark. I became someone people prepared for before meeting, someone whose pauses were studied, whose silences were quoted secondhand. Still, there were nights when the past tried to speak. It always uses familiar voices. It happened during a live interview. Global network. Prime time. The host smiled too wide. You're famously private, she said. But people are curious what drives someone like you? I didn't blink. Cameras loved restraint. Absence, I said. She laughed nervously. Care to explain? I looked straight into the lens. Into millions of eyes that didn't know they were watching a confession. Everything I am, I said evenly, was built in rooms where I wasn't wanted. The clip went viral. Analysts debated it. Psychologists dissected it. Motivational pages misquoted it. None of them understood. That sentence wasn't for them. It was for a house that no longer existed. After the interview, I returned to the old neighborhood. Not nostalgia, verification. The street looked smaller. The trees thinner. The neighbors different. The past always shrinks when it loses authority. I parked across from where the house used to be. New paint, new family, new laughter. Pain shouldn't be inherited. I sat in the car, engine off, listening. No rage, no grief, just distance. That night, I dreamed of my father. Not the angry version, not the broken one. The quiet one I'd almost forgotten, the man reading the paper, humming faintly, unaware of the damage he'd already done. In the dream, he looked up and finally saw me, not as a disappointment, not as wasted space, just as someone he didn't know. And somehow that hurt less. The call came from my lawyer a week later. My mother had passed. No spectacle, no headlines. Just a clean ending. She left everything to charity. Everything except one thing. A box. It arrived sealed, unmarked, heavier than it looked. I opened it alone. Inside were notebooks. Dozens. Her handwriting. Dates stretching back years. Confessions written in ink that trembled. I don't know how to reach him. I see him everywhere. We broke something we didn't understand. Page after page of regret, not excuses. Regret. I closed the final notebook and sat there for a long time. Some apologies arrived too late to be useful. But not too late to be true. I placed the box back inside, sealed it, and locked it away. Not out of bitterness. Out of respect. The world kept turning. I was invited to speak at a private summit. Leaders, innovators, the kind of room where the future gets negotiated without permission. Someone asked me, if you could speak to your younger self, what would you say? I didn't answer right away. Then, leave earlier, I said. The room went still. Silence is not surrender. I added, it's strategy. They applauded. I didn't. Years later, much later, I received a letter from someone I didn't recognize. A young man. He wrote about being unwanted, mocked, invisible. He wrote about hearing my interview and realizing survival could be intentional. He ended with one line. How do you know when you finally escaped? I stared at the page. Then I wrote back. When their voices no longer narrate your life. That night, I stood on the balcony, city lights breathing below, wind brushing past like a reminder I was still here. They once said I took up space. Now I decided how much. And who was allowed near it. The past was quiet. Not defeated, just irrelevant. The last time I returned to that city, no one recognized me. That was the real victory. I stood on the rooftop of the tallest building I owned, not in my name, not on paper, but in consequence. The city stretched out below, alive, loud and different. Sirens. Regret moving through streets like an old habit. Somewhere down there was the house where I learned how small silence could make you feel. Somewhere down there were rooms where my name was used as a warning, a joke, a lesson in disappointment. None of them could reach me now. I took out my phone and deleted the final contact I'd never blocked. Family. The word blinked once before disappearing. No drama, no music cue, just absence. And it felt clean. People think revenge ends with destruction. It doesn't. Destruction is easy, loud, temporary. Revenge ends when the past loses its voice. When you no longer rehearse conversations that already happened. When insults rot before they reach your skin. When the people who broke you become footnotes instead of villains. I didn't win because they suffered. I won because I stopped needing them to. At dawn, the sun cut across the skyline, sharp and unapologetic. I watched it rise like I once watched other people rise without me. Only this time, I wasn't waiting for permission. I thought of that sentence, the one that started everything. Some kids make you proud. Others just take up space. They were wrong. I didn't take up space. I claimed it. I didn't vanish. I withdrew and returned as consequenza. And somewhere in the quiet they never learned to respect, the child they tried to erase finally stood tall. Not to be seen, not to be forgiven, but to be undeniable. The world moved on. So did I. And this time I left nothing behind that could hurt me again.